The night the Vampire King chose power over her, everyone said she would break. They said that when El Rey Alpha, the most feared vampire king of the Northern Realms, finally cast her aside for a political alliance, the human girl would crumble. That she would beg. That she would cry. That she would cling to him like all weak creatures did when abandoned by power. After all, she was only human. A nobody. A servant living under his roof. And Rey Esperado believed it too. He prepared himself for her tears. He braced for guilt. He expected screaming, accusations, maybe even hatred. What he did not prepare for, what shattered him more deeply than any rebellion ever had, was silence. And a smile. A cold, precise smile that never reached her eyes. And by the time he understood what that smile meant, her bed was empty. Her warmth was gone. And the king was left ruling a kingdom that suddenly felt like dust. The crystal chandeliers of Castillo Nocturna reflected crimson and gold across the grand hall, bathing the winter blood gala in ruthless beauty. Beyond the towering obsidian windows, snow fell over the blackwood forest, thick and endless, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Inside, the air was heavy with ancient power, expensive perfumes, aged wine, and the sharp metallic undercurrent of vampire pheromones shifting with tension. This night was sacred. It marked the solstice of blood. It also marked 3 years since the Vampire King had taken a human girl into his protection. Her name was Isabella Cruz. She stood near the far column, fingers curled tightly around a glass of untouched champagne, her knuckles pale. The drink had warmed long ago, but she held it as if it were the only thing anchoring her to reality. Isabella did not wear jewels. She did not wear silk spun by royal houses. Her dress was simple, deep emerald, altered by her own hands, carefully fitted to avoid notice. A servant's choice. A human survival instinct. Whispers followed her everywhere. Why is she here? She doesn't belong among immortals. The king will discard her soon. She heard them all. Humans learned early how to endure cruelty quietly. You look calm, murmured a voice beside her. Isabella didn't turn. She recognized Lucien, the king's second, one of the few vampires who didn't look at her like she was temporary. He's restless, Lucien continued softly. That's never a good sign. He's a king, Isabella replied, her voice steady despite the ache tightening in her chest. Restlessness is his nature. Lucien hesitated. He's been meeting with the Crimson Council, and with Lady Valeria. Isabella's grip tightened on the glass. Valeria. Daughter of the Eastern Coven. Pure blood. Royal. Untouchable. They say the alliance would end centuries of blood war, Lucien added carefully. They also say humans are fragile, Isabella answered. Yet here I am. Lucien said nothing. Silence was its own confession. Then the hall went still. The massive iron doors at the top of the staircase opened with a thunderous echo. Rey Esperado emerged. He was devastation given form, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black tailored to authority. His silver-streaked hair was pulled back, his expression carved from stone. Power rolled off him in waves, bending the room to his will. When his gaze swept the hall, it paused on Isabella. Only for a second. Then it turned away. The pain was instant, sharp, visceral, like ice driven straight into her chest. My people, the king's voice boomed, filling every corner without effort. Tonight we celebrate endurance, survival, strength. Her heart pounded. This realm has known war, he continued. Loss. Division. He descended the stairs, but not toward her. Isabella felt it before she saw it. The subtle pull of something breaking. I have made a decision, Esperado said. For the future of our kind. He extended his hand. From the shadows stepped Lady Valeria, radiant, ancient, dressed in silver that shimmered like moonlight. Her eyes flicked toward Isabella, sharp with triumph. Gasps rippled through the hall. I announced the binding of the Northern Throne and the Eastern Coven, Esperado declared. Lady Valeria will become my queen at the next blood moon. The silence was absolute. Every gaze turned to Isabella. They waited for her collapse. They waited for the human girl to be destroyed. Esperado felt the bond between them strain, then tear, slowly, painfully, like a thread pulled too far. Forgive me, he projected into her mind. You were never strong enough for this world. The words crushed something inside her. But Isabella Cruz did not scream. She did not fall. She inhaled once, and locked the pain away where she had stored every other wound life had given her. Slowly, deliberately, she lifted her head. Her eyes were dry. Come. And then she smiled. Not a warm smile. Not a loving one. a cold, terrifying curve of her lips that promised distance, finality. She raised her glass in a silent toast to the king who had chosen power over her humanity, set it down, and walked away. The crowd parted instinctively. Esperado took a step forward without realizing it. By the time he reached their chambers an hour later, the bed was empty. Her scent, gone. On the pillow lay a single note. Stop looking. And for the first time in centuries, the vampire king felt fear. The king who could not forget. The first thing Rey Esperado noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind that followed victory. Not the disciplined quiet of a kingdom that obeyed. The silence was wrong. Her silence. The royal chambers had never felt empty before. Even when Isabella slept, her presence lingered, soft breaths, the faint warmth of a human heart daring to exist beside an immortal one. Now the air was sterile, cold, unforgiving. Esperado stood at the foot of the bed, fists clenched, eyes fixed on the neatly folded blanket. No struggle. No chaos. No trace of panic. She had not fled. She had chosen to leave. The realization struck harder than any blade. She wouldn't survive outside the realm, Valeria had said earlier that night, her voice smooth with certainty. Humans are fragile. She'll return. But Esperado knew better. Isabella Cruz had survived things that would have broken vampires twice her age. She had survived hunger, loneliness, cruelty whispered with smiles. She had survived him. And now she was gone. 3 nights passed. Then 5. The kingdom celebrated its future queen, banners raised, alliances signed in blood. Yet the king's throne felt heavier with each passing hour. Esperado began to see her everywhere. In the kitchens, where servants flinched at his presence because she was no longer there to soften his command. In the infirmary, where she once stitched wounded guards without flinching, even as they mocked her humanity. In the library, where she used to read ancient texts in languages long forgotten. Languages she had claimed to pick up by ear. That memory returned suddenly, sharp and unwelcome. How did you learn this dialect? He had asked once, watching her trace old symbols with delicate fingers. She had smiled faintly. I had time. Time. The human had time. The Crimson Council grew impatient. She weakens you, Valeria said one evening, stepping into his study without invitation. Your attention drifts. You search shadows. She was under my protection, Esperado replied coldly. She was beneath you, Valeria corrected. And she knew it. The king said nothing, but his silence was dangerous. That same night, a report arrived. A human girl matching Isabella's description had been seen beyond the borderlands, traveling alone, injured, refusing aid from covens and clans alike. Esperado crushed the parchment in his hand. She's walking toward death, Valeria scoffed. Let nature finish what you began. But Esperado felt something stir inside him. Not guilt, fear. Isabella woke to pain. Her side burned, the wound fresh and angry beneath her cloak. The forest around her was unfamiliar, older, quieter, untouched by vampire rule. She had crossed into neutral lands where no king's protection applied. That had been the point. She pressed her palm against the blood-soaked fabric and forced herself to breathe. You don't get to rest yet, she told herself. She remembered the night she left, how her legs trembled only after the castle gates closed behind her. How she vomited in the snow, not from heartbreak but from relief. You thought she was weak. That lie had nearly killed her once. Never again. Voices approached, rough, mocking. Look at her, a man sneered. Human. Alone. Isabella reached for the knife hidden in her boot. Too slow. Hands grabbed her, dragging her upright. Pain exploded through her ribs. She's worth coin, another voice said. Or blood. Isabella lifted her head, meeting their eyes, and spoke, not in common tongue, but in an ancient vampire dialect, one outlawed centuries ago, a language of binding and command. The men froze. Their laughter died mid-breath. The forest seemed to listen. Isabella's voice was steady, cold, terrifying. Let go, she said softly. They obeyed. She didn't wait to see why. She ran. Back in the kingdom, Esperado felt it. A ripple through the bloodline. A disturbance old enough to wake legends. Someone had spoken the forbidden tongue, and the source was human. Esperado stood abruptly, fury and awe colliding. What are you hiding from me, Isabella? He whispered into the night. For the first time since he became king, Esperado realized the truth too late. He had not abandoned a fragile girl. He had released something powerful into the world. The truth he was never meant to learn. The world began to hunt her. Isabella felt it before she understood it. The shift in the air, the way shadows lingered too long, the way the night itself seemed alert. Word had spread fast and quietly through the supernatural underground. A human girl had spoken the forbidden tongue. And lived. That alone made her dangerous. She traveled only at dusk and dawn now, keeping to forgotten roads and abandoned villages where even vampires hesitated to linger. Her wound burned constantly, but she refused to seek help from any coven. Help came with chains. Instead, she relied on what she had always relied on: discipline, silence, and the strange gifts she had never fully questioned. At a ruined monastery near the Iron Hills, she finally collapsed. Fever stole her breath. The world spun. Memories bled into dreams. Her mother's voice. Hide what you are. Never speak the old words unless your life depends on it. If the king ever learns the truth, he will either crown you or kill you. Isabella woke screaming. Rey Esperado tore the kingdom apart. Spies were dispatched to every border. Messengers bled themselves dry to carry commands faster. Ancient wards were reactivated, protections last used during the First Blood War. The Crimson Council protested. This is obsession, Valeria snapped, standing before the throne. You endanger the alliance. She activated pre-royal language, Esperado replied, his voice deadly calm. That knowledge predates all current covens. She is human, Valeria insisted. She cannot. She can, Esperado cut in. And she did. The oldest counselor, Lord Maelric, finally spoke. His voice trembled, not with age but fear. There is only one explanation, he said slowly. The girl is not merely human. Esperado's jaw tightened. What is she? Maelric swallowed. She is a blood-bound remnant. The words echoed like a curse. Long ago, before kingdoms, before thrones, there had been women born between species. Humans with blood altered by ancient vampires who believed compassion could tame immortality. Those women were healers, linguists, bridges between worlds. They were also hunted, because prophecy said one would end a dynasty. Esperado felt cold spread through his chest. Find her, he ordered. Alive. Isabella awoke to candlelight. Stone walls. Old symbols etched deep into the floor. She tried to move, failed. You pushed yourself too far, said a voice. An old woman stepped forward, her eyes glowing faintly red. A vampire, but restrained, ancient, bound by oath. You should not exist, the woman continued. But you do. That means the old bloodlines lied. Isabella forced herself upright. I'm not your enemy. No, the woman replied. You're the king's. The word struck deeper than any wound. He abandoned me. The old vampire studied her for a long moment. No, she said quietly. He feared you. Before Isabella could respond, the monastery doors exploded inward. Power flooded the room. Rey Esperado stood in the doorway, eyes blazing silver, coat torn from travel and battle. Their gazes locked. Time fractured. She expected anger, accusation, control. Instead, she saw something that shook her more than betrayal ever had. Regret. You were never weak, he said hoarsely. Isabella laughed, a soft, broken sound. You chose a crown over me. I chose survival, he replied, and may have doomed us both. She rose unsteadily. Then leave me. You already did once. He stepped closer, but stopped himself. I don't know how to protect you without destroying you, he admitted. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Then learn. The monastery shook. Enemies were coming. And this time, Isabella was no longer running. The queen who walked away. The night fractured. Not metaphorically. Not poetically. The very sky above the ruined monastery split with crimson lightning as ancient wards awakened. Wards older than Esperado's crown, older than the alliances that had poisoned his judgment. The ground trembled beneath their feet, stone screaming as magic long buried clawed its way back into the world. They're here, the old vampire whispered. The Crimson Council sent executioners. Isabella stepped forward before Esperado could stop her. No, she said calmly. They followed me. Esperado turned to her sharply. You are injured. You will not fight. She met his gaze without fear. I will not hide. For the first time, the Vampire King understood the depth of his mistake. He had believed strength meant domination, control, command. Isabella's strength was something else entirely. Just. The first of the executioners breached the hall, pure-blood warriors wrapped in ceremonial armor, eyes burning with righteous cruelty. By decree of the council, their leader snarled, the blood-bound remnant will be erased. Isabella inhaled slowly and spoke. The forbidden tongue poured from her lips, not shouted, not forced, but woven with intent. The language bent reality itself, freezing the executioners in place as if the world had decided they were no longer relevant. Esperado felt it in his blood. Not compulsion. Recognition. "She is not your weapon," he roared, stepping beside her. "She is under my protection." The council leader laughed. "You already discarded her once." Isabella's voice cut through the tension like ice. "He doesn't own me." Silence fell. Then she turned to Esperado. "I didn't leave to punish you," she said quietly. "I left to survive." He bowed his head, not as a king but as a man who finally understood humility. "I failed you." "Yes," she replied. "And that failure taught me who I am." The executioners tried to move. They couldn't. Isabella raised her hand and released them. "Go," she said. "Tell the council this. I am done hiding. And I do not belong to their fear." They fled. Dawn came slowly. The monastery stood ruined, but the world felt lighter. Esperado stood at the edge of the broken courtyard, watching Isabella pack her few belongings. "Come back with me," he said at last. "Not as a servant, not as a secret, as my equal." She paused, then shook her head. "You want redemption," she said gently. "I want freedom." The words hurt, but they were honest. "I loved you when I was small," she continued. "I will not love you by shrinking again." Esperado swallowed. "Then what do you want?" She met his eyes one final time. "Rule better." She stepped past him. And the vampire king, feared by all realms, did not stop her. Months later, the kingdom changed. Servants were paid. Humans were protected. Ancient laws were rewritten. Not because of guilt, because of respect. Esperado ruled differently now. Quieter, wiser. And every decision carried the memory of a human girl who had walked away rather than beg. Far beyond his borders, in a quiet city where vampires and humans crossed paths unnoticed, Isabella Cruz opened a clinic. She healed without asking lineage. She spoke ancient words only when necessary. She belonged to no throne. Sometimes at night she felt him watching the stars too. Not searching, remembering.